Guys, welcome back to the YouTube channel Niche Wholesaling, where we teach you how to build a niche real estate investing business, whether you want to wholesale, whether you want to fix and flip, whether you want to buy and hold. So guys, remember, if you want to join our community and learn some key techniques of what I'm doing to implement in my 7-figure niche wholesaling, niche flipping business, the link is in the description. See you on the other side. Today, we're gonna talk about an interview I had with Mathew, who inspired me in the very beginning to keep going when times got tough. I love seeing his success. So I was honored to speak to his audience on his platform about how I got started in the business and where I am today, about 2 years into it. So a few takeaways, and the whole interview is gonna play after this, but I wanna give you guys a few takeaways that I got when I went back and watched, you guys to take note of, is I took a loss in another business that technically was failing because I couldn't sustain it, to jump into real estate. So whatever business you have in mind, whatever route you want to go, whether it's flipping, whether it's buy and hold, whether it's wholesaling or any type of business, sometimes you have to be willing to take a loss because you truly believe in what you're about to get into and what God has in store for you. The second thing I got was there were a couple techniques I used when times got tough. So remember, wholesaling, whatever you see online, real estate investing, it may look easy from the outside, but just trust me, when people say they made this kind of money, whatever kind of amount of money, in 30 days, it's usually not what it seems. Things are usually a lot harder than they actually are shown on social media, as you should know by this time, 2024. But there was a couple techniques I used. Was watching a couple guys on YouTube show some successful either interviews of their success in their journey, or I followed people like Mathew, who was just documenting his progress. Some days were grinds. So it helped me keep going when it was really tough. I'm just like, am I in the right business? 6 months into it, made no money. 7 months into it, I made like 6 grand. I'm like, this is not what I saw on YouTube. Maybe I should quit. Nope. If he's doing it, he's still going, I'm still gonna go too, because I know it's gonna work at some point. So that was one of the main techniques I used. And guys, please stay away from getting into the whole YouTube rabbit hole where you're just like looking at everyone else's success and not taking any action. So I had those videos playing on the background while I was multitasking when I was building my business in the beginning. So the third thing I got that I said was one of the biggest things I did was staying super focused. And that's staying focused after I discovered what niche I wanted to go into. So what does that mean? Staying focused means you're gonna have to be willing to turn down business, to not get distracted, to not pull you away from the vision, right? So I'm gonna give you a good example. Let's say you do a transaction, right? You don't even know what niche you wanna go into. So you're just wholesaling real estate, you're fixing and flipping, but you stumble upon a closing attorney, right? And the closing attorney tells you, hey, I come across a bunch of these probate situations and I see what you're doing, because this actually happened to us. I see what you're doing. Maybe we could work something out on the back end. I could send you those leads, you know, blah, 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 right? I keep doing business with you. You keep doing business with me. It's mutually beneficial. I turned that down, but imagine it was you. You didn't pick a niche yet. You're just wholesaling real estate. You're just fixing and flipping any types of properties. Well, if you do decide that, wait, this makes sense, my marketing costs will go down, right? These leads, I know how to service them because I just closed a probate deal, and this attorney has more of this type of business, why not go all in? Stay focused. So when a subject to lead comes your way and there's no equity, blah, 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 the only exit is like subject to or short sale, I'm sorry, I can't help you. You're gonna have to find someone else. That's what you tell a seller. And you stay focused so that your mental bandwidth, mental capacity is going deeper into the niche that you're looking to build an empire with. Not many people build niche businesses, but it does work. I did it. One of the 4 things I got from the interview was I did say it's possible to do this with a full-time job. Again, there's a caveat, right? So you're gonna have to be willing to sacrifice something. For me, I was commuting 2.5 hours one way. So I had 2.5 hours to choose, okay, am I gonna sit on the train, look out the window, or am I gonna sit and work, right? So I sat and worked. I scheduled all my seller calls during that time, or I scheduled them for on my commute back home, or I scheduled them for nighttime when I got home. And I also sacrificed my sleep. So that's how I look at it. I wasn't gonna sacrifice family time, even though I did in the beginning because I was learning. I was not gonna sacrifice family time to build an empire and not have a good relationship with my kids and my wife. To me, that doesn't make any sense, right? If you're gonna sacrifice something because you believe in it, it has to cost you. You shouldn't make those around you that you love pay the cost. The fifth thing I got was there is a price to pay for success. And a lot of people don't realize there's a price to pay for not being successful. So, and when I say success, I'm talking more monetary, right? So money. You have to think of it like this. You can go to a job and feel that comfort for 15 years, 20 years, you have a 401k, whatever, you're doing good, right? Let's say the world changes like what happened during COVID, right? And you get sick all the time or whatever, XYZ, but your circumstances change. Well, if now you can't comply with your employer's rules, guess what they're gonna do? So you could chase the comfort of a job and pay the price later, right? Or you can chase the success now of kind of maybe doing both if you have to, or jumping into real estate or whatever it is, any business venture, and you'll pay the price of sacrifice, the fear, all the negative haters and everyone who doesn't believe you could make it, and they have nothing, no good advice to add to your life, no good knowledge, no good words of wisdom to add to your life. They really want to protect you, but they want to protect you because they don't understand that God has something greater for you. So maybe it's not their place to, right? But you know, I know, we know that you may sense that you have a greater purpose on this earth and you want this time freedom so you can do that. So even with this success, what's the driving force? For me, at least, it's time freedom and flexibility of my schedule, right? So if I do want to take my kids to school, I can take my kids to school because I so choose to, not have a boss breathing down my neck, right? That's one of the things I took away from this interview was I said, you have to pick your hard, right? So either you can work hard and chase a success now. It may take a year, it may take 2 years to come, or you can stay at the job and just feel like, you know, that's your only source of income. And you might pay the price later when you feel like, okay, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm exhausted. And now you got to pay that price because now you're way behind. So another thing is staying grounded is very important. So one of the things I did in the beginning, even till now, there's a lot of months that are feast and famine. So as you know, one of the channels I began with, I chose one niche, one marketing channel. I hope you guys see that as a takeaway. It doesn't matter what niche it is, right? You choose one niche, one marketing channel, but you have to stay grounded. I had a lot of months where it was feast or famine. Do I like that? No. And that's why I stayed at my job at the time. But I stayed focused. I didn't go try to add another niche to the business or try to do more, add more marketing channels right away. I needed to make it work first. At least that's what worked for me, right? That made it sustainable so that like I really understood the marketing channel and I really understood the niche. So that's why you want to make sure that you stay grounded because it can be feast or famine. And that's generally the nature of this business. One thing we did discuss on this interview was other people's markets, right? So he asked me, which markets are you in? And my advice is to stay out of the markets that are mentioned on YouTube. I know that may be like not what you typically hear or want to hear, but hear me out on this. So once something hits YouTube or mainstream social media, it typically becomes saturated. Typically regulation starts to happen in that area, whether it's regulation or just like the prices of everything go up. So it's going to be more expensive because everyone wants to market there because they think the deals are there, right? Deals are everywhere. What I like to do is I like to stay in I like to find new markets backed by data. What data, you may ask? You just use Zillow. If you join the community, you'll learn how I think through, how I create like data models to make it make sense to go into a space. So I like to go into markets that aren't typically talked about. I'll give you an example. Does anyone ever talk about wholesaling houses or flipping houses? Or do you see anything on YouTube where any of these guys are in Vermont? No, right? But there's houses in Vermont. What do we know about Vermont, for example? We know that there's ski resorts, right? It's a perfect opportunity for Airbnb buy and hold investors, right? There's families that move into Vermont, right? For jobs, for work, right? So we know there's an opportunity to fix and flip. So those are examples, right? It's less competitive. It hasn't hit mainstream yet. And there's just less people talking about it. Typically, you're going to be one of the few people, investors, that the seller's talking to. So that's one of my key takeaways, especially when you're just starting out. You want to find the cheap locations, and you want to try to do everything in a cost-effective way. And the last thing for you guys is you have to watch the whole interview to hear any of the other golden nuggets that I talk about. There's actually quite a bunch more, but you got to listen to it, right? So I hope this interview adds some value to you and your business, and to consider niching down. So if you join the community, there's gonna be a list of different niches there. I'm gonna keep showing examples on this channel of other wholesalers, flippers in successful niches. And guys, I hope you enjoy the interview. If you have any questions, please leave it down in the comments. Some links are in the description. Check it out. We'll be in touch. Enjoy the interview. Peace.
All right, what's up YouTube? Biz Mathew here. Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we have an interview with Joel, and he's going to talk about how him and his partner have been wholesaling properties, and also give different advice for you all, especially if you're starting out wholesaling, what you all can do in order to get that first deal or consistently getting deals. So make sure you all like this video, subscribe, and I'll put all their contact information, their socials down below, so please be sure to support them. So just to start off with, Joel, how are you doing today?
I'm good. Thank you. First and foremost, I gotta say thank God for you allowing me to speak to your platform. And like I said, from the very beginning, you were very inspirational for being transparent and just documenting the journey. So because I saw you were the very first person I saw doing wholesaling that I could relate to, that was doing it full time. And I was like, okay, that seems possible. So again, thank you again for letting me speak to your audience on my journey, wholesaling fire damage houses.
For sure. And yeah, I appreciate those kind words. And yeah, that was the goal. Like when I started, and it's crazy to hear it from people like, hey, this is what you did and this is how you helped me. So I appreciate that. So yeah, just to start off with, I want to talk about how you got started with wholesaling. Like, how'd you learn about wholesaling? How'd you get introduced to wholesaling? What were you doing before everything?
Yeah, so what's interesting is I had a friend. So I'm working a full-time job, still at the same job. I work on Wall Street. And I had a friend who left. He actually got me introduced to this company on Wall Street and said, you should apply. I think you'll get the job. He got a job. I got a job. We're best friends and everything. And he said he was leaving one day to do wholesaling full time. At the time, I was like, he briefly mentioned it to me, and I was like, that sounds like scammy. I'm not interested in all that. 3 years later, he's still doing it. And I'm like, okay, that's interesting. So I started looking on YouTube, wholesaling, and I saw all these young guys, including you, doing it full time. And I'm like, and so the more I look into it, it just seems so interesting, because at the time I'm commuting to work 2 hours one way. It was a lot at the time. It's still a lot now, but I was just like doing marketing. I had a marketing agency at the time, and I just started to dread client work, right? So at my job, same thing. We provide work for our clients, and I really started not liking the feeling of having a boss over you. Every couple of days, you have to give an update. If marketing performance isn't good, which is out of your control, you have someone breathing over your neck because they paid you. So I saw wholesaling as a way, like, you're serving this client, the seller, for 30 days because you have this contract for 30 days in the hopes that you find a buyer. And it just intrigued me that you can make this amount of money, make a living by yourself. And I noticed you doing that. And I was like, I just went down this rabbit hole, studied for about a month. And then I was like, okay, I'm gonna sell this marketing agency, everything I was doing, I'm going all in on wholesaling. So I sold the marketing agency at a loss because I knew I just couldn't stand client work anymore. But I was like, I'll use that money 100% for wholesaling. And at the time, that was the most money we ever seen. It was about 20 grand. So I was able to start that and I built a brand. I wasn't doing fire damage just yet. I was just doing everything I saw. So I was doing like shotgun approach, every niche. My first lead was fire damage. I made no money. And I was like, I'll never do a fire damage property again. Even though I wanted to help the seller, that deal, like it was very hard to find a buyer, but I was committed to finding a buyer for the property. And we found the buyer on Christmas Day for the seller and made no money. And then I had a subject to property, made no money because I didn't know what I was doing, but I did another fire damage deal and I made some money. And this was 6 months into the journey. So 20 grand invested, I haven't made no money. I made 6 grand, still negative. And what I think most people need to understand is you might feel like you want to quit. You're probably going to feel like you want to quit because the daily grind, it's all in here and it gets really hard. But I was like, I was watching your channel for inspiration because not every day did you have a deal. It just doesn't work that way. Right. And not every day, like you found a buyer in like a week for your property. So I really use you for inspiration. Like kind of felt like you were with me. Like, okay, keep going. He's doing it. He's still going. So I'm going to keep going. And so first 6 months of the year, I was still negative on the investment. I invested 20,000 in marketing because I come from a marketing background. So I built a website. I do SEO.
And what year was this?
This was, I'm in my second year. So this was 2022. Yeah, 2022.
Oh, wow. Okay. This is recent.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So 6 months, I was still low on my investment, but the last 6 months of the year was when I made all the money. So most people quit when it gets really hard in the beginning. At least that's what I see. They don't stick it through a whole year because they see the YouTube guys making this big check in 30 days. You know, that's possible, but that's not what I think people should expect. So I made about $250,000, 250,000 the last 6 months of the year, which is kind of crazy. If I had quit, I would have never seen this opportunity. So, and that 250,000 was all from fire damage deals I got. So
this is in 2022.
Yeah, 2022.
Okay.
And when I realized, like, I can speak to fire damage victims because I really care about people. That's just my nature. I like to serve people in a way that makes them feel comfortable to let me put their house under contract and find a buyer for it. It just changed everything. So I niched down, I focused on fire damage. Every other lead type, I outsourced it to some other wholesaler. I just gave it to them. I didn't want anything to do with it because I didn't want to be distracted. I got to stay focused, guys.
Okay.
That was 2022. I'll get into 23 if you have
Yeah. No, you shared a lot of different nuggets that I just want to highlight for sure. But just going back to your beginning stages, I think it's important to highlight that, you know, you were in a job, you were working a business that, you know, wasn't really serving you, or doing a business that you felt like you could have done something else, right? You could have went to another business, serve your clients in a better way or a better manner, and that led you to real estate. I think it's important that you even took a loss on your business in order to start a new business, because I think a lot of people they shy away from taking an L, you know? And so I think it's important to recognize, just highlight, sometimes you have to take an L in order to go on to your next step. And I just want to go to the beginning stages, you know, talking about that first deal where you actually made money, you know, like, I know the first 2 deals or whatever deals you say you made no money, right? That can be discouraging for a lot of beginners, right? And then, but you kept on pushing on. And then just going to that first deal, let's just break that down a little bit, that you made 6K, because, you know, we have a lot of beginners here on this channel. So I just want to share with them how you got that first deal where you actually made money. Like, just walk us through the process. You know, what was the lead source? You know, how did you market it? You know, the negotiations, the price, and things of that nature.
So one thing I will say is, let's talk about the deal I made no money. The very first deal I ever got, because that one was the deal. Like, it was, I don't know what it was. It was not about the money. I was so happy. I was like, I told this lady, I will not let you down.
we will buy this property. And the crazy thing is, I made no money. The title company wasn't helpful, even though they were investor friendly. They didn't guide me on like who signs, get a notary out there, all this stuff I know now. They did not guide me on that, but I figured it out and I got it done. And after the fact, like forget the money, I was like, this lady has no idea who I am. The way I found the lead was through SEO. So I started a marketing agency. I do search engine optimization, so ranking #1 on Google. So if someone searches for your service or your product and you're on the first page or at the very top, you're likely to get that person to come and view your page. And if your page resonates with what they're looking for, they'll opt in. So she opted in saying, hey, I want to sell my fire damage house. It was in Indiana, but she was located in a different state. It was a rental property, but it caught fire. And she said, pretty much, I actually locked it up. I had to renegotiate because, again, I didn't know what I was doing, but I really just wanted to do my first deal to learn and fail forward. And that's what I stand by. You got to just do it, fail forward. And so the way we marketed it after I got the contract is I had a buddy and I was in a Facebook group and there was someone who said, oh, I got buyers in Indiana. I'll do all the dispo. I let her do a dispo. 3 weeks go by. And she said, I asked her, I said, you haven't found a buyer in 3 weeks? She said, no. I said, how many days have you been actually marketing this? She said, about 2 days. That's when I learned, okay, wholesalers, you got to be careful because they'll tie up your contract and not put in the work after you worked your butt off to get that contract, right? So we try to work, like we always vet wholesalers. Like wholesalers aren't bad. I wouldn't categorize it as that, but you got to vet people like if they're willing to put in the work, in the grind. So I was like, you know what? I got to take this in my own hands and do the acquisitions, which I did, and do the disposition. So I went on Facebook Marketplace. That's how I found my buyer. And ironically, the buyer was a neighbor who was down the street. He said his eyes were on this property for years. He could not get a hold of the seller. He's been calling her, sending mail to the property, nothing. So it's very interesting how like real estate works because you could cold call, you could text. If you don't get the seller, it doesn't mean they're not interested in selling their property for whatever reason. But she found the means to find my site, opt in, and I found the buyer who was interested in the property. And this was like, I had to extend the contract. I had to renegotiate the price. I had all these pitfalls that I was like, I'm not going to make money. Why don't I just cancel? But it's not about that. I want to help people, right? So even if I'm not going to make money, I've disposed many deals. I don't make money, but I'm happy I actually helped the seller out of a situation where they don't know how to rehab the house. They don't know how to hire contractors. They don't know how to deal with the city with code violations or fire damage. So the buyer did. And we renegotiated everything. We paid off her taxes. And she was crying on the phone, like in joy. Didn't know what to say. Couldn't believe there are people that want to buy these distressed homes. So that proof of concept was like, I'm all in. Right. And I wasn't all in on fire damage, but I was all in this space. Like, wow, I can actually help people and make money in between. I didn't make money, but I know I can because I saw you do it. I saw you do it.
Right, exactly. And what happened, I guess, with the price, because it seemed like this buyer was pretty interested. Was it just, you negotiated a little bit too high on the price or
so what? She had back taxes.
Back taxes, okay.
Yeah, so to close on the property, all that stuff has to be cleared from title.
Right.
Which the back taxes usually reside on Schedule C of the title, which shows any issues that will prevent you from closing. And because the back taxes were so much, the back taxes were about 20 grand. Indiana doesn't have too many
oh wow.
The market's not too high there. It's almost like in Ohio. So it just made the property upside down. And because of the fire damage, my assignment was going to be about 10K. So I had to forfeit that because no one was going to overpay for a fire damage house that needed to be torn down. So that's what prevented it. And I sacrificed my assignment for that. And I talked to the buyer because he was about to back out. I begged him to buy this deal. I said, I'll do anything. And ultimately, the seller, I think she only walked away with like $400. She walked away with something very, very small, but she was happy to get out of the situation.
Okay. And sometimes that's all a seller wants,
Yep.
just to get out of a situation. They're not necessarily looking for a price, but just get out of just the hardship they're going through, the
Right.
distress. And yeah, I mean, it's great that your buyer just stepped in and just paid off all the taxes and
Yep.
things of that nature. But like you said, that proof of concept is really important. The other question I have, just hearing your story, is there's a lot of people that are working full-time jobs and whatnot. How are you able, especially in the beginning, to balance working a full-time job
Yeah.
and doing wholesaling?
So in 2022, I think COVID was still like prevalent at the time.
Okay.
So I was remote, I was at home.
Okay.
But when we had to come back to office, what I would do is, because I had this long commute, I was able to, I mean, it wasn't easy. I had to really work on my time management, like on a next level, on an uncomfortable level, because I'm not someone that like is super organized. But it's like, how bad do you want this? Like you have to get organized. You have to do tasks that drive you closer to a deal, drive you closer to the money, right? So I made sure on this train ride, I would use my hotspot, laptop. I would just list out all the like SEO stuff, marketing stuff I have to do, right? Because every marketing channel works. I want to say one thing. So it's not like SEO is the gold mine, because people cold call and they'll, like what you did with, you had a fire damage property. You went right on Facebook and you found the seller. I know it took some time to get a hold of him, but he responded to you. He wasn't looking on Google for someone else. He responded to you because you were there. You were there ready as soon as he was ready for his problem to be solved, right? So I was doing all the marketing on the train, do my full-time job on the train ride back. It's about 2 hours. Again, back to the task, like squeeze it in, because I really want to be intentional with my family, right? So I have 3 young kids. I want to be present. I want to be there. So it was hard. The first like year was tough. It's like, okay, well, I'm coming home, but I still have more work to do. And I had to sacrifice sleep. You got to sacrifice something. So I chose to sacrifice my sleep to get it all done the first year.
Okay, no, that's some good advice. Like, yeah, it does take sacrifice, especially if you have that full-time job. But maybe that 2-hour commute was a blessing in disguise, where
Exactly.
you actually used it to build a business, because it's
Exactly.
2 hours there and then 2 hours coming back, right?
Right.
So it's
Exactly.
4 hours total a day, which is a good amount of time that you can work on something.
Exactly.
And so, yeah. And by the way, what do you do as a full? I know you said Wall Street, but what's your job?
So I work for JP Morgan Chase as a business analyst. I used to be a software engineer by trade. So I went to school for software engineering. Yeah, business analyst. So that's also a grind. They want a lot out of you, and it's one of the top Wall Street banks. So I guess the point of me saying that is like you have to come to a place where you make no excuse for your situation, for yourself, because there are young kids doing it, there are older people doing it, and everyone in between, no matter what circumstance, they just like stay focused until you get the deal. So yeah.
No, that's a good point. Yeah, and I was just curious, and I know a lot of audience, people will be curious because some people do have like high stress jobs,
Yeah.
and they're trying to figure out how to do something on the side,
Right.
to eventually leave those high stress jobs. And I know currently you're still working in your job, and at least for 2022, we'll get to 2023 later, but
Yeah.
why is it that you are still working a full-time job even though you have success in this business?
Right. So I will say, like someone like myself, like before wholesaling, I was homeless. I was in college. I had a baby on the way with my current wife. We weren't married at the time, and it was really hard. I didn't really have direction because my father wasn't around, and I didn't know what to do. But I knew, like after praying about it, I had to be there. I had to focus, figure it out, and pay the price. And I want everyone to understand, like your sins, I'll say, because you know what sins are. There's a price to pay for everything. So if you're let's say you're in college and you're hearing this and you want to start a business or wholesaling, it's the best time to start. But if you choose to go to the bars at night and the parties at night when you really could be building your business to get ahead once you're done with college, you're going to pay a price for that in the future, because now you're a year behind, or you just pay over time, more responsibilities and all that pressure. So all the pressure I went through before getting into this, I'm so used to. So the pressure of my job and time management, it keeps me really, really focused on money generating tasks. So now as I'm scaling, I'm focusing on systems that are efficient. So I know I could do this like full time, but the job pressure and the 2-hour commute, waking up early, it's that pain that really helps me, like, how far can I push myself to do this? So I know it's a good question. I asked myself, why am I getting up so early to go, like, I could do this full time, but I think there's more of a deeper story of, like, I could say to someone else that looks at me and like, oh, you're so successful, you're rich, this or that, which I'm not, because $1 million today is not what it once was. My what I would say to them is, like, what's your excuse? Like, I have all this going on and I'm still, like, doing my best. And it's not easy, but, like, I know if I just keep at it, I don't know, real estate just seems like real estate's the one industry that I've noticed, if you just stay consistent, even if it takes 2 years to get your first deal, like, you're bound to be successful. You're just bound to do it. Just stay focused.
No, yeah. And that's a good point. I think by you still working a 9-to-5 job, like you're saying, I mean, you can use that as, people can look up to you as inspiration,
Right.
And so, yeah, that's a good point. And another question I had is, you said a friend introduced you to wholesaling. Is that friend your current partner, or
No.
you have? Okay. Okay. And so, when did you start off with a partner? And in 2022, did you have a partner, or how did that?
Yeah, it was interesting. I had like 2 partners. Like, we're all like, yeah, we're gonna do wholesaling together. But I remember there were a lot of sleepless nights, and I'm like, where are you? Like I got all this going on. I know you got your personal life, but I'm staying up late. I'm waking up super early. I'm getting literally no sleep. I would stay up till 2 a.m. and then I'll get up for 4. My wife is like, that's not good for you. You can't be doing that. I said, no, you don't understand. If I sacrifice now, a year, 2 years from now, I won't have to do that anymore. So I don't do that anymore. I go to sleep early now because I built the systems. Like, I sacrificed. Now I train and outsource a lot, but I had 2 partners at the time. The first deal we did, I let my partner dispo it. That also went south. So I took it over. And then my other partner, we were doing, like, we had another deal, tried to dispo it together. We made no money together. The next deal was fire damage. So I had both partners on this fire damage deal. And
that's the one you made $6,000 from, or was that?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Yep. And one of the partners, he was like, there's too much headache and fire damage, so I'm not doing this anymore. So he went his way, but we stayed really good friends. And then my other partner at the time, I told him, like, okay, I have the leads. I need to create a system. If we're going to do this, I want you to work for me, not with me, for me, because I have this vision. I want to go all in on fire damage. And if you want to, like, work with me, make money, build your own business, you can. But none of this, like, 50-50, and then you don't put in the 50% work that you're expected to. So today he works with me, and he's the head of disposition for all the fire damage deals, and he's really good at that. So eventually I'm going to have him on the channel and start, like, training and coaching people on how to dispo fire damage deals properly.
Okay. No, yeah, I think that's important what you said, just because I think a lot of people go into partnerships not knowing what they're really getting into. And so, just learning that, sometimes personalities, people have different visions, you may have a partner one year and then a different partner next year. But yeah, I think it's just—
Can I say something? Can I add to that? So before all that, regarding partnerships, I was starting all these multimedia companies, social media, digital marketing agencies with buddies from college. Oh my gosh, never again will I do partnerships, because, like, if your values really don't align, like I started, I was the only one at the time who had a baby on the way, so I couldn't attend those meetings at another college to meet with clients. I couldn't, because I'm like, I haven't seen my daughter all week. I have to be with my family. So a lot of partnerships, every single partnership just failed. And I
Mm.
realized, like, okay, sometimes it's not the person that's bad. It's two different visions and two different work ethics. But if I'm in charge with my work ethic, I know I'll set everyone up below me to succeed, to win
Mm.
in a way I see like they fit in, that like kind of fits their lifestyle, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, no, that's an important, aspect of it because, yeah, you may think you may want a partnership, but in reality,
Yep.
you just want your own business
Yeah, yeah,
and,
yeah.
people to work alongside you.
Right.
And so the person who's in charge of Dispo, is he the person on the Instagram?
No, 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 no. That's acquisition. So he's in charge of acquisition. So yeah, yeah, Lewis.
Oh, okay, Lewis. Okay,
So
gotcha.
he's all over the channel. So he's the main reason I can keep going, working full time. Like at some point you can't do this alone. Depends how, like,
Right.
where we're at now with revenue wise and lead volume. I can't answer these calls. I have to be at my job. So he's the one that does all that, closes the deals, and he'll be training on acquisitions as well.
Okay, that's great. That's great. Okay, and then let's start talking about, so you got that 6 grand wholesale deal, and then towards the end of the year 2022 you ended up doing 250,000. So
Yeah.
what really made that jump? What was it that made you, you know lose out on 2 deals, sub 2 deal, only made 6 grand, and then projected you to 250,000? What do you think really changed?
So SEO. And that's how SEO works, right? When you build something online like an asset, a website is an asset. People will pay a crazy amount of money for a website, a domain. Forget the website. They'll pay a lot of money just for the name, just the brand, right? So I know, because I come from this background, I know if you keep going, most others will quit. They'll stop paying their agency because they'll say, "Oh, well, I'm not seeing like your value here. It's taking too long. Six months in, no leads." I mean, some agencies suck, and they're just making you pay for garbage. But what I will say is, because I come from a marketing background, I do my own marketing. And so I know myself. I'm gonna stay up late to beat my competitors, right? Because they're paying an agency. The agency is only gonna do the amount of work you paid them for. But
Mm.
me, because this is my business, I will get no sleep. I'll be relentless. Like I will study new stuff, implement at scale, and then I see what works, and then I just go deep, right? So that's what made the jump, because I know I was investing 20K. Any money I made 6 grand. I reinvested all of it. And so my wife is like, where's the money? You said you're wholesaling and you're gonna make this money back in 6 months. I was like, okay, well, it's gonna take time, because what I'm doing, I know it works, because I've done it many times before. So yeah, after 6 months, Google starts to recognize the brand, and then they start to put you on the top of the page for certain keywords. And so now when people search like sell fire damage house, they see my site is top 3, and they see the brand. Oh, they buy fire damage houses. Then more people start to opt in, and later in the year, it's very interesting. You don't know who's going to come to your site and who will resonate with you. Yeah, they're getting other offers because they fill out form. It takes like 2 seconds. They go fill out another form. But it's about like when you talk to them on the phone, if you show them you care, that's how I've won these deals, these contracts, these sellers business, because I talk to them about like them before I
Mm.
talk about the house. Like how are you like doing? Is your family okay? How are your kids? And it's always work. So I make it more about the person and then the house after.
Okay, no, that's important, just to concentrate on the person more than like the numbers, the deal, the property, and whatnot. But yeah, I always been intrigued with PPC, all of that and
Yep.
how that works. And I know like people like you are doing that, and they're making good money. But like you said, like so many different types of marketing techniques can work for you
Yeah.
and your business and what you're looking for.
I will say on that though, it is way more expensive than cold calling.
Mhm.
It is way more expensive than texting.
Right.
But because I have this full-time job and I wasn't in a place to train VAs on how to talk and the language barrier and this and that. I just wanted people to come to me. I want them to raise their hand. So my website does all the vetting, 20 questions they have to fill out. So I know the details going in. I know they've already like said, yes, I want to sell. So now I just need the second yes, like I want to sell. And you know, there's some books and quotes on like the 3 yeses in sales. If you get those yeses, they're more likely to go with you. So that's why I went the expensive route and the long-term play, because most people go right into cold calling because they want the results. But this teaches you like patience, like stay focused, it's gonna come.
Right. And I mean, like you said, you were doing the PPC for months before you really hit,
Oh,
that number of 250,000. So like every day you're spending money on Google Ads,
So 2023 was when I started spending money on Google Ads. This was just SEO. So I'm
Oh,
building
SEO before. Okay.
right,
2022 is SEO.
right,
Okay.
right.
Okay. And
So
so,
PPC is above the SEO. So like, you know, I lost a lot of deals because everyone else doing PPC, they would go right to them and they'll leave it at that. So I had to wait for like the low hanging fruit, the people that didn't want to click on the ads. So it was a waiting game, but I know people are on Google. So
right,
that's
right.
kept that.
Okay. And just to get this clear, so just so I can understand it more. So in 2022, you're mostly doing SEO, which is just optimizing your website so it can rank higher on Google.
That's
So
it.
it doesn't take much money, I guess, to do
No,
that.
no, no. It
It's
takes a
still
lot because
a
you
lot of
got
money still.
you
Okay.
got big competitors in the space today.
Right.
Like now, everyone's the guys. I know the guys who are there. You know, I've done work with them in the past, but all these guys are really smart in SEO, and that's why it takes a lot of money because they're doing like advanced stuff that require money, and for you to beat them, you have to put in money as well towards that advanced stuff. So you have to be on the same knowledge level and same budget level to beat them. If that
Okay.
makes
Okay. Yeah, for sure. Okay. And then you say you started with PPC towards the end of 2022 or
Yep.
2023?
So beginning of 2023, I started with PPC. I
Okay.
added.
Okay. And so, you have this, success in 2022 with 250,000, and then 2023, how did it shape up for you? You started at PPC, and what happened?
So 2023 started like no deals. It was dry. It
Oh,
was
wow.
dry, right? So I'm still investing everything I've done, everything I've made in 2022. I've invested majority of it. Like I only took home maybe like 10%, 20%. And I invested it, no leads. Some leads were just really horrible. So no deals up until March. And then everything's like steamrolling, like really good deals. So I hit a couple of 6-figure months, but then from May till August, nothing.
Dries up.
And
Hey.
I'm freaking out because I brought Lewis on, he's on the Instagram on the channel as well. I brought him on and I'm like, he's working full time. I got no leads. Now I'm like stressed. I'm like, oh my gosh. You get in your head. I'm getting in my head like maybe this isn't the right way to do things. But I have to always ground myself and like it's a game of patience. If you keep at it, you're gonna win. If you keep at it, you're gonna win. You only lose if you quit, right? So even with, let's say I stop marketing, I stop putting any more money into the websites, because I put money into websites in the past, eventually a lead will come in because it's an asset. It's still there. Google has these updates that shake everything up. So sometimes they'll put this website you're not doing anything on anymore on the top, and then you have leads coming in still. So that's why I like it. So 5 months, nothing in 2023, but the other months are really, really big months of like really good deals, all fire damage. The marketing channels are SEO and PPC, and I'm really starting to build out a team to do this while I'm at my full-time job.
Okay, interesting. And so you're doing this nationwide, right?
nationwide. Yep.
Okay. Is there a, you don't have to say the best markets, but is there like a part of this country where you're seeing the most deals or
Um,
anything like that?
so wherever there's like dense population, there's always going to be more deals, and that's what I've noticed. So like the big states like Texas, Florida, California, big states, you'll see a lot of deals. But I will say, you don't want to chase what like people are doing. It's going
Right.
to cost you more. It's going to be more competitive. So these smaller states, it's like an open sea. Like these sellers will come in, you're competing with less people. If the values are good, there's deals to be done there too. So I haven't seen like one good area where there's like a flood of volume. It's
Right.
spread.
Okay.
I really like the smaller states because there's just less competition. I don't know about
Competition.
you guys, but I like to. I don't want to compete with all these investors, and the seller puts it into a bidding war, and then now your wholesale fees like shrunk down,
Yeah.
and then like you're in this to make big money on as many deals as possible.
Right. Okay. And so 2023, first few months didn't get any deals. Then, like you said, March, April, you're hitting six figures.
Oh yeah,
And then it took like another like couple months to
yeah,
get back. So
right.
six figures in a month, for 2023, just to start off with. I mean, that's really great money. What do you think helped you cross that six-figure mark in a month during that time?
Again, it's like it has to do with the caring. Like when I remember talking to the sellers, which resulted in those deals. Just like the seller's like son is talking to me, and I'm like, listen, I'm gonna do everything I can to win your business and resolve any issues with the property. I'll move at your guys' pace, okay? And I see that you're not on title, but your parents. Can you add your mom to the call? And so we do a three-way call, and now it's like this older lady on the phone. So I'm very like patient, and I make sure, are you sure you want to sell? So
Mhm.
that like you guys could rehab this and get it back to marketable, blah blah blah, whatever. And I try to make sure that they like it's a the buddy I worked with when I first started, he always told me, he said, you're really good at this like push pull technique that makes someone feel like not pressured to take an action, but then they really want to work with you. So I don't know what it is. I'm not like purposely doing that. It's just my nature to make sure these sellers want to do what they're saying they want to do.
Mm.
Because of that, they give me these really good deals. And that's really what it is, just the consistent marketing. And when you get on those acquisitions calls, you really just show them that you care more about the house, more about them than the
Yeah,
house.
yeah. No, it makes sense. Okay. No, that's really good advice because yeah, I know that, when I talk more with sellers, yes, you have to create, yes, you show that you're interested, but you also have to create interest that they are interested in you and they're kind of coming
Yep.
after you too. But yeah, that's great advice. And so now I just want to break down one of your deals.
Okay.
Let's say a recent one, a nice size deal, okay?
Okay.
And so I'm
All
just
right.
gonna ask you some questions.
For
And you
sure.
can just answer them. So first off, where is this deal located?
Washington.
Washington State.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so is particular city?
The Seattle Metro.
Okay. And then what was the motivation behind the seller wanting to sell?
So the neighbor was the one that opted in our site. She
Okay.
said, I was searching around, and I'm pretty sure she only, because our brand is fire cash buyers, it resonates with people off the bat. So they're more likely to come to us. And that's why we truly believe in niching down into like creating a brand. So she came to us and saying, okay, my neighbor down the street, his house caught fire, and I've convinced him to sell it. We're like, oh, okay. The seller would not talk to us for months. It was the neighbor, and we're like, I'm like, okay, they're playing games. They won't bite on our offer. I actually sent one of the buyers I met on another transaction. I made no money. It was in Washington also, but I wanted to create a relationship with them because he's really business mind and all these other business ventures he's doing. I thought he was really interesting. I said, okay, go to this property and see if you're interested. At least if they're not biting on my number, tell me where you're gonna be at. I usually don't wholesale like that. We usually lock it up and we grind to find a buyer. I know some people want to do it the other way around, and that's fine too. So the buyer went out there and he said, this is not only a drug house, this is a hoarder house. It's fire damage. The seller is tweaking, and his girlfriend is also tweaking. I'm
Wow.
oh, this sounds like a mess. And then the buyer says, this is gonna be a lot of work. I need to be at 200K. So this was the deal we recently showed on the channel we've done. So he's like, I actually need to be at 150, not 200. The property is worth about 425, 465. And he's like, I need to be way down here because the rehab is expensive. And I'm like, I told him the seller, he won't even talk to us. Like, he's not gonna bite at that number because he keeps telling us he wants 250. And then he says 200. He's like, I'm not going lower. So they disappear for like a month, right? 2 months. They disappear for 2 months.
Oh, wow.
Guys, keep this in mind. Wholesaling, it's not like always, it's rarely straightforward. Like, hey, I want to sell, take my house. It's not
Right.
like that.
Right, exactly.
It's like you have to like keep emotions at bay, right? And just like stay focused, work on other stuff. And these sellers, they have distressed properties and it's not going away. So they have to sell at some point. So 2 months later, they come back and I see it. And I'm like, Lewis, okay, you know, they're playing games. I don't want you wasting your time on that seller anymore. Tell them if they don't take this number, 130. Now I'm going way lower. I don't care. I'm going deep. If you don't take 130 today, tomorrow is going to be 110 and it's going to keep going down 10K each day because you texted us again and you're playing games. You're kind of wasting our time. So Lewis, he tells him, he says, my manager said it's 130 today. And if you don't sign today, it's 110 tomorrow. And then we're not interested anymore. That's what he said. And I like that play because it shows them like we need to deploy this capital. Like we're business. We don't have time to play this game of like rabbit, cat, whatever. So he set the contract and they signed it so fast. And I was like, what? I was so confused because I wasn't expecting anything from this deal. And they signed it so quickly. And I was the one who was holding up the signature. And I was like, I'm so confused what's happening. But I realized this is real estate. Like people, just because they're not ready to sell at this point in time, life may have changed. And we discovered that they're living in this fire damaged house. They're living in it.
Oh,
The
wow.
toilet backed up. So now there's poop all over the house. And they say nothing about it. And I'm like, what is wrong? Like, what is wrong with you guys? And then, so long story short, the seller's girlfriend is like, okay, I noticed that the neighbor is like, she's too involved in this. You guys do not talk to her anymore. And if you deal with her, we're not doing this transaction anymore. And I'm like, who? She's the girlfriend. She's not on title. And the seller is still like really not trying to talk to us. It's the weirdest thing. Anyway, she's very controlling. And we were like, ah, crap. Okay, fine. We had to cut out the neighbor, which was sad at the time because she brought the deal. And then we moved forward. We closed on the property and then they sit there. And the only reason we closed on it is because the seller's girlfriend would not let our buyers walk the property. They took away the lockbox so we couldn't get in anymore. We're like, what is, like, it makes no sense. And we're calling them and they're ghosting. We blow them up. All the seller, the seller's girlfriend.
So you purchased it for 130.
130, yeah.
How did you fund it?
Hard money. So I put down 25% from
And you
other
used a
wholesale
hard money loan?
transactions. Right, yeah.
Okay.
And so now that's also what we teach. Like, if you know it's a deal, it's worth taking on some risk.
Right.
Because if buyers can't get in there, they're just like telling us, okay, well, it's gonna be super low ball. And I'm like, no, I see the ARV. I know it's worth this. So that's why I'll get to how much we made on that one.
Right.
Once we bought it, they squatted for about 3 weeks, not answering our calls. So we get boots on the ground realtor to go there and put pressure on them saying like, this is our property. Like, they're squatting, so they have laws and rights, and it's tough because it's like you put in this risk, and they could stay there and just ruin the whole thing for you.
Yeah.
But eventually they got out. We paid for self-storage. We paid for a hotel to encourage them to get out. We also gave them a cash advance to get out. They took the money, lied, this drama, but this is wholesaling. You're here to solve a problem. So we would just say like, it'd be nice for you guys to stay at a hotel instead of this poop house. It smells like smoke, it's fire damage, and it smells like, so we had someone come in to remove all the junk, and this contractor had his guys, 2 guys out of 4 quit on the spot because of the terrible conditions for them to breathe in the property. So just so you guys know, it's like the worse the property, the better it is for an investor, right? So because you're here to solve that problem. So that's what happened. They removed all the junk out, and then we put it on off market, dispoed it. We had a lot of interest in it, and in 7 days we found the buyer, and then in 7 days they closed on it, and we made a spread of 150, 158.
158,000.
Yeah.
On one deal.
On one deal. Yeah.
That's amazing. That's great.
All
but it took a lot of work. Yeah, for sure.
You have no idea how many days, like, we just had to ask God for patience, because we wanted to get the police involved, get these people out of the house. They didn't want to give us a deal at the right number. The girlfriend wanted to take control of the transaction. We paid the neighbor referral fee she brought the deal. So it's like, it's crazy how real estate works. Sometimes people see your brand, they see the reviews, and they're like, okay, I know someone that needs your help, so I'm going to connect you to. And that's the biggest deal we've done, but that's not the biggest deal that we've missed out on. So we've lost deals in 2023, like a lake house in Atlanta, and the spread, the wholesaler, they made $300K on that. Fire damage, right? So just so everyone knows, like if you're at the right place, right time to solve someone's problem, the sky's the limits in terms of how much you can make.
No, that's amazing. Yeah, I was still thinking about that, but no, that's great. And how many months from the first contact with the neighbor till actually closing the deal was that with that Seattle property?
It was about 4 months.
4 months. 4 months in, but it paid off. And so you were all in, maybe, with the demo, with taking trash out. How much were you all in, you think?
About 42,000, 46,000. Yeah.
4,200 per se. And then you sold it for close to,
it was like we sold it for like 270.
Okay. And what's your main way to dispo? Like, for example, that property, do you just find local cash buyers? How do you all usually dispo?
So our guy, Sean, he's the head of disposition. He's an expert. So the main method is Facebook. For some reason, these Facebook groups work. But here's the key and here's the secret. You got to vet these guys. How do you vet them? If they're really a buyer, show us one of your flips. Show us your recent flip. What LLC do you buy in? And then you check what county record it matches. Okay, right? And then they go to the property and you give them that 14 days to close. If they say they need 30 days, likely trying to assign it, right? It could be a cash buyer that needs 30 days, but we always go with who can close faster, right? We just want to be done with the property so we can reinvest in marketing and just scale.
Right. No,
that's so Facebook groups have been killing it. We've only used Facebook groups.
Wow, that's crazy. Yeah. And honestly, like, finding cash buyers for Facebook group has generated the highest assignment fees for me too. Yeah. And it's crazy because, I pulled lists, did all these different things, send out emails. But yeah, I noticed that Facebook groups, it's just like a different crop of cash buyers. And, even putting it on Marketplace sometimes and then cash buyers finding it through that method too works. But yeah, I know we're running out of time, but I just want to ask you this final question, for beginners. Let's say they haven't gotten their first deal, or maybe they're trying to get more consistent with their deals. Like, what are your advice for them to, going over that hump, motivation that you can give them right now?
I think that's a good question. I think I would suggest they do what I did, which is find someone they can resonate with. So if you do have a full-time job, if you got kids, if you're married, and like someone like me who wants to be intentional, I don't want to just be like working all the time. I want to be with my wife. I want to be with my kids. I also like my job, so that's why I'm still doing it until I can't do it anymore. If that resonates with you, just like follow the journey. So on those hard days, you have some motivation because we're not getting a deal every day. And there's days where we lose transactions, even sellers back out, ghost, they go with someone else, all of these headaches, but we're staying at it because we know it works, right? This is the business where we can truly help people and make a ton of money in between. And the second thing would be hustle, like do Uber, do something and pull up a little cash to skip trace, to put into marketing, figure out one marketing channel and stick with it. So remember, the first year I did SEO, I was very like shiny object, cold calling, hire a VA, pull a list. Oh, that's so much cheaper. I could quickly try that.
Mm-hmm.
No, that just created distraction for my mind. I cut it out, focus on one marketing channel. And then one way we're trying to get back to any new beginners is we're starting this community, and it's still in the works of the like final idea, but we want to pull the fire damage list, skip trace it, give these guys training, free training from all these other guys online that show cold calling, right? And they learn how to cold call and just call this list. If you get a seller interested, you can either close a deal or we can help you close a deal. And we have buyers ready in our markets that are ready to buy fire damage properties. And I truly believe that's the fastest way for someone beginning to get their first deal, that first lump of cash to build their business, or they might build a business around working with us. We know some people that are just disposition companies. They just work with wholesalers, right? And that's a real business model too. So you could partner with other hustlers in the industry. But the first step I would suggest is getting serious and like picking one niche, one space, pre-foreclosure, fire damage, code violations, pick one marketing channel and just study that everything you can on YouTube and follow very few people who will inspire you on those hard days to not give up. Like, that's why I really like your channel. It's very like raw, especially when you just speak about like where you're at with a certain deal. You're like, I haven't found the buyer yet, but hopefully next week. I'm like, yeah, that's literally how it is. It's like, you haven't found the buyer, hang in there. They might come 2 weeks from now. They're gonna come. And if you need to renegotiate, they'll help you justify why you need to renegotiate. And it's a win. I don't know. It's a win-win. You help the seller, you help the buyer, you make some money in between, and you can just change your family's trajectory for the better.
No. Thanks, yeah, for sharing all that. I think that will help a lot of people, especially finding someone they can relate to and resonate with. It may not be me, but it may be someone like in your situation with a full-time job, with children and whatnot. And so, yeah, I think that's really key. And just, going through the process, like understanding it's not gonna always be, perfect, right? You are even further down your journey, you're still going to deal with sellers who ghost you, and things of that nature. So yeah, that's important. And I know that I said that was the last question, but I'm just curious now,
Okay.
So with fire damage properties, what are a few things people need to know when dealing with fire damage properties? Because I know a lot of people are watching probably interested in dealing with fire damage properties, because I know there's things with insurance and things of that nature,
Yeah.
but what are like some things they should know?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So here's what I'll say. So any niche you go into, if you look at it as like you're trying to create this business around the whole niche, so fire damage per se, the seller will have to deal with their insurance company if they had homeowners insurance because they have a mortgage. A mortgage requires you to have homeowners insurance. So they'll have to deal with the mortgage company and the insurance company. So what you want to know is the claim settled or is it still ongoing? If it's still ongoing, you get the seller to tell them, hey, I want to just cash out my policy and pay the difference. So that insurance check is written out to the mortgage company and the seller. The mortgage company takes first position on the title. So if anything happens to the house, they get their money first. So typically the check sometimes will be just enough to pay off the mortgage, and then your cash offer is what will go in the seller's pocket. So if you just make sure that you tell them, like, you can talk to the insurance company, you get a third party authorization. It's very detailed, but we'll go into this in the channel. There's not really much, I won't say there's much to know. It's like they just deal with the insurance and the mortgage, and you just want to make sure you're communicating with each party to let them know this seller wants to sell the property. So you need to like get the file ready for you to close off their name on your books. And the title company typically helps with all this, and they can reach out to us if they have to deal with fire damage. But even in pre-foreclosure, you deal with the courthouse, you deal with the bank, right? So if you know all these things because you study your niche, that's really how you win. Because some investors have no idea, oh, the city's involved, oh, the courthouse is involved. But because we believe in niche wholesaling, when you study your niche, you just get ahead because you have so much more to offer the seller. And they're like, oh, okay, he knows what he's talking about. I'm gonna go with him.
Yeah, no, and yeah, like you said, niche down and research, study your niche. That's good advice. And by the way, if you all are interested, all their socials are down below. And this is now the very last question for sure. So okay. 2022, I know you say you did 250,000.
Yep.
What was your revenue for 2023? You just ended.
Yeah, 2023's revenue was a little over $1 million.
Okay.
And glory to God, because I couldn't do it without him, because there's way more days that are so mentally difficult, like to stay the course, than there are these like big like wins. And even making this kind of money now, it's not like the sky's part and my life is perfect. It's like, okay, well, back to the grind.
Mm-hmm.
There's sellers that have real problems that I can help solve, and my family, and like now I'm starting to understand the game of real estate, of money, so it's not a game. If you really like build this business around specializing in something, you see your value and your place in the world to like really make a difference in your like everyone's life right around you. So that revenue, thank God. But this year we have like big plans, and the plans this year are really focused on giving back and helping people get their first deal, get their first fire damage deal, build a brand, niche down. Obviously you can spread, you can do whatever you want, but we will teach specifically on building a brand, a niche brand in your state. And then you get these referral deals, and you get deals left and right, center, everything, because you're the specialist in the space that buys houses, and you make a ton of money in between.
All right. Yeah, no, that's important to put some perspectives, behind the numbers, because a lot of people just concentrate on the number, but like niching down, and giving back to the community, like what you all are trying to do. But once again, you all, thanks for watching. Follow Joel and his companies and all his socials down below. And yeah, reach out if you all have any questions. Comment down below if you have any questions. All right. Talk to you all later.
Peace.